Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Booked. I'm joined today by the lovely Jean Burk, founder of College Prep Genius. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. This has been a long time coming, and I'm glad that we finally got to do it. Yeah, how's your day been so far?
Already busy. As you know, my husband just got out of hospital with his kidney transplant, and so we are on the early stages of just following up 3 times a week, going
Mm-hmm.
in, checking the labs, making sure the kidney's working great, which it is working
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. The new
Fantastic.
one. So it's been great. It's been great for him.
Good. It sounds like a positive yet busy day.
Yes.
Good. I'm glad that it's going well. I'm really grateful that you made the time to be here because I know you are an incredibly busy person. You're a business owner, you're a speaker, you're a writer. Um, could you tell our audience a little bit about you and what you do?
Oh, thank you so much. Well, yes. So I own a company called College Prep Genius, and it really came out of just my own family's experience. So
Mhm.
if I can take you back about when my son was in ninth grade, we literally had no money for college.
Mhm.
So our kids were homeschooled, and we didn't have any money. We were just a one-income family, and but we did want our kids to go to college, and they wanted to go to college, but there was no money. And my friend mentioned to me one day. She said, "Did you know there's free college when it comes to taking like a test, like an SAT, PSAT kind of test?" And I didn't know that. I'd never heard that before. And I thought, okay, wow, maybe this is how we can get some scholarship money. And
Mhm.
so I didn't know what I was doing, very helter skelter.
Mhm.
And so with my son, we just did a bunch of different things. We bought some books at the store. We didn't know anything about test taking. Um,
Mhm.
we went through lots of practice questions, took a couple local classes, and short story long, he became a National Merit Scholar. And what that means, since you're from England, what that
Mhm.
means here in America is that he was like in the top 1% on his test scores, which
Wow.
means people, I didn't know what I know now, but back then we didn't know why everybody, the colleges wanted him. And
Mhm.
they would send us these letters and these offers, probably for about a year after he took his test. We ended up throwing away 7 trash bags full of college offers that were things like not only full tuition, full ride, free room and board, free grad school, free
Mhm.
money to study abroad. So our decision went from how we pay for college to where should he go because he had so many offers. And what I didn't know back then was test scores help the college. It helps their national rankings,
Mhm.
makes them look good. They're able to attract students with, because they go higher in rankings, they can attract full paying students.
Mhm.
And so it was a win-win. And then after my daughter received scholarship money, I was receiving phone calls from my friends going, okay, how did y'all get free college? That's when I wrote the book, the very first book, and started teaching a class out of my home. And so from there, it went from not only starting my home teaching a few kids, and my living room filled up, my kitchen filled up with kids. And
Wow.
then I was asked to come teach at certain schools. So I started going to schools and teaching. And then I would have people say, well, I don't really live in your area, but if I get a few kids together, will you come to my city? I'm like, okay. So then I started going to different cities and teaching, and then I started going to different states. And then I've also gone to several other countries to teach my program. And
That's
so that's kind
amazing.
of it in a nutshell.
Wow. I mean, that's a pretty big nutshell. That's so impressive. I mean, you obviously saw a need and then just went for it. I mean, it sounds like you don't have a single regret doing this.
No, not at all, because not only um, was it amazing for my kids, but also I've helped tens of thousands of students get through college, ace SATs,
Mhm.
college prep, all of that, because I learned so much along the way. Beyond that, I began to learn other things,
Mhm.
help people get into college and get it paid for, because right now it takes the average student 20 years to pay off college debt.
Oof.
That is 2 decades of your life paying for something that you did in 4 years. And
Mhm.
there's no college worth that. That's a lousy investment. And
Mhm.
what you've seen is a lot of college graduates getting out of school and then not being able to get a mortgage, maybe delaying getting married and having kids because they're so strapped and so crippled with that debt.
Wow. Yeah, it's really interesting to see the difference between people talking about student debt here in the US and people talking about student debt in England. I mean, that's all changing. don't have to pay that off. And after 30 years, it gets written off. So I don't have to pay it if that's the case. They've changed that now because people were basically not paying off their debts. Cause I remember seeing it on TV and social media where people were complaining about their student loans, and I was thinking it's not that bad, but it's totally different here.
It is. I would say the average debt is 40,000, and the median debt is around 100,000. So that's why you see a lot of these kids moving back home and living with their parents after graduating, just because it's so ridiculous.
That's wild. I just got a comment in the chat saying my sound went weird. Is it normal now?
It did.
Is it okay now?
It's good now.
Okay, phew. Maybe there's ghosts. Spooky ghosts. Thanks for letting me know, Grant. So yeah, it's been fascinating for me. Are you okay?
I'm reading my water.
Oh, you're fine. Take all the time.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
My water and breathe it. Sorry, y'all.
That's okay. You're only human. It's fine. I choked on like a piece of almond the other day. It was like this big, and I nearly passed out.
Oh my gosh.
It was terrifying.
Yeah, this is so crazy because it's just like you think you can't choke on water, but you can. But sorry, y'all.
Oh, you're fine. You don't have to apologize. I'm just glad you're okay. What was like? Okay, yeah. So it's been fascinating for me to learn the differences between education systems in the UK and in America, because I completed a bachelor's in psychology about 8 to 10 months before I moved here, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll do a master's, and the whole system was so confusing and terribly expensive. I gave up on the idea because I thought I'm never going to be able to achieve this. So what is it that you can provide through College Prep Genius that will basically help people like me who are in a sort of similar position? If you need a second, you can take a second.
Yeah. No, it's totally fine. I'm okay. So it's the key really is your test score.
Mm-hmm.
And even as you're talking about grad school, going on to getting a master's, for example, my daughter was offered free grad school because of her GRE score, which is a grad school, very similar to like an SAT. And so even my son was offered lots of full rides to law school because of his LSAT score. And so the key, these tests really are the golden ticket to free college or free, post-grad school, because the test is what sets the student apart. Because, a 4.0 at one high school is not the same at another, like a 4.0 GPA. One student might have really hard teachers, rigorous classes, and have a certain GPA or grade point average. And then another student who goes to a different school might have easy teachers and easy classes and have the same grade point average. So on paper, they look the same. And so there has to be some kind of numerical component that's common to all applicants. And that's why colleges use a standardized test, like an SAT, ACT, or even the CLT. And so what happens is the testing itself helps the colleges. And it helps them in the Department of Education status. It helps them in their profiles, and because of the metrics. And but the problem is, and the reason why lots of students don't do well on a standardized test, I teach at many public and private and parochial and charter schools, and most of the kids are the top 10% of the school. I even get valedictorians. And why would these really smart kids vomit? It's because test taking is a different skill set.
It really is. Yeah,
it is, and nobody teaches you the skill set of taking a test, which is a disservice to our students, because you're going to be tested all your life. Whether you go to college or not, whether you go into the trades, whether you go to the military, at your job someday, you're going to be tested. And what they do is they don't test you on your degree for your certifications or ongoing training. What they do is they test you on your critical thinking skills, because that's the one thing we all have in common. Excuse me. And so you have to have something that's standardized, because when you for example, at your job, nobody there is your same exact age. Everybody there has come from different backgrounds, different states, different countries, different schools. And so they can't test you on your knowledge or your content that you learn, but they have to test you on the only thing that you have in common with everybody else, which of course is your critical thinking.
Absolutely. And I've heard quite a few people say that having a degree isn't necessarily gaining all the knowledge that you need to do a job. It's proving to that place of work that you are committed to completing something that's not easy.
Exactly.
At a time.
Well, and these standardized tests are just logic tests. They're not about content or how smart you are. They're about logic. And the sad thing is, in a lot of schools, whether it was there or not, never there, logic has been removed from the schools itself. So they teach a lot of other fluff stuff. But if they would just if they would bring back in logic and teach kids how to critically think, which is a necessary skill for college readiness, but it's also just a great skill for life. I think sometimes we see people who don't have those things. They're not able to think things through or problem solve, which is a soft skill. A lot of times colleges hire graduates because they have the hard skills, they have the degree, but they don't have the soft skills. And being the communication and the teamwork, and also critical thinking and problem solving.
I mean, you see, I'm not going to get political, I promise. But you see that with how people navigate the news, for example, or their sources of information. If they're unable to use those critical thinking skills, then that's when people get irate about things, or they get over emotional because they're not actually breaking it down and understanding what that thing actually means and what it means to them and for them. So it is a huge skill, and it's a massive life skill as well. So yeah, it's fascinating. It truly is in my opinion, a totally different world to the way that colleges or universities work in England. I don't know how they work now, but it just sounds like the process is totally different. I'm fascinated to know your process in terms of actually creating this book. That it's essentially a guide, right, to go along with your
Well, and there's several books, but yes.
Yeah.
So the book goes along with the video course too, on basically taking the students through the different sections of the test. So you've got, for example, the SAT. The three main tests that we have now for college entrance are the SAT and the ACT. Those have been around since the 1920s and the 1950s. And then a new test came on the scene, which is the CLT, or Classic Learning Test, which has been around since about 2016. And so what our program does through the book is that you learn for example, the reading, the writing language, or grammar, and then the math section. And it takes the students through the questions, because what happens is most students spend maybe 2 or 3 minutes per question, especially on the math. Well, you've got only a little over a minute per question.
Oh, wow.
And so if you spend that long, you're going to burn the clock up. You're not going to get a very good score. And so, but the great thing about it being a logic test, every question can be answered in 30 seconds or less.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So what we do is we take the students through, here is the fast way. Here's where the answer is found. Because it's a standardized test, which has the standardized questions and standardized answers. And that means that the answers are found in the same place every time. So we show them how to discern the logical patterns of where the answer is found. So once they find that and use the tools that we teach them, like we use, for example, in the classroom, whether they're doing my virtual class, my online, my self-paced, or an in-person class, we use like a regular highlighter, because on the test they give you a highlighting tool that you can use. So we mimic the test, and so we show you exactly where the answer is found. So I'll give you an example. In the reading section, where you have about a minute per question, and you've got 54 different passages that you have to read and answer in that amount of time, which is basically impossible if you do it the long way. If you do it the normal way, you cannot do that. So, for example, there's 5 types of passages and 14 types of subcategories of questions. So, for example, the passage with the blank, precise word or phrase, that's what it's called. So what you do is you find the blank somewhere in the middle of the passage. Then you find the punctuation mark that's closest to the blank, which it could be a period, it could be a comma. And wherever that punctuation mark is, you take your highlighter and you highlight that information that follows that, and that's your answer.
Oh,
Take
fascinating.
that information and you find the answer that restates what you just highlighted. And again, it could take you 10, 15 seconds to do that.
That's
Once you understand that, that's why test taking is a totally different skill set. Once students learn that and families learn that, you can not only use those skills for just getting into college and getting scholarship money, but if you go on to grad school, law school, if you go in to real estate or CPA or whatever you've done in your life, you can use those same skills on pretty much any standardized test because they kind of all do the same thing. They have one objective, indisputable answer, and several distractors. And once you understand those distractors, then you can eliminate those and find the correct answer because they're very tricky. The questions are written to purposely mislead the students, and the wrong answers can be very appealing. And so this is why you see these valedictorians bomb these tests all the time. Is because they're tricky, and they're testing your thinking skills and your logic skills. And if you don't know you're being tricked, you'll fall for the wrong answer.
And I guarantee, like, that it sounds like something where if I took that test, I'd be doubting myself and constantly changing my answers all the time. Who knew it was filled with riddles?
Right. It is. You're right. The biggest issue that a lot of students have is either overthinking the question or second guessing themselves.
Yeah.
And so we teach you, like, I'll give you another example. There are 4 hidden patterns that the SAT, the ACT, the CLT use, but so do, like, I've had people say, well, I use your strategies on, the civil service test or the ASVAB or the Hobby Lobby test. They're all just logic tests. But there's 4 patterns, 4 tricks that they use almost every standardized test that you take in one section. And I use acronyms. I create these acronyms, and it's called COAT, COAT. So a lot of students at school, when you take a test at school, what do? You read the question and you look for the right answer. If you do that on an SAT, you probably fall for the trick answer. But if you realize that I'm going to read the question and I'm going to eliminate the trick answers first, then that leaves me with the one right answer that doesn't break any of these rules. And so the COAT stands for contradictory information, obscure, additional information, or just totally irrelevant. And so when you take a question and you read it and you look at A and you go, yeah, that's contradictory. Okay, B, yeah, that's obscure, confusing. Well, C, yeah, that adds some extra stuff that wasn't there. And then that leaves you with the last answer that doesn't fall into any of those categories. So, and those 4 skills that I just told you, anybody that's listening can take those and apply those to just about any test. We've had people come to us and tell us some of the most amazing tests. They're like, oh my gosh, I use your strategies on, the one. I got a long list of tests that people tell me, but one in particular, I was in Dallas, and a young girl came up to my booth that I was speaking at, and she said, Mrs. Burk, I did your course and I aced the SAT. It was great, but I have a fun story for you. And I said, okay. And she said, I had taken Mandarin 1 and I wanted to test into Mandarin 2. And she said, but when I did, most of the words I did not know. And she said, so I used College Prep Genius strategies and tested out as a native Mandarin speaker.
What the heck?
And so I got her video testimonial, so it's on my website. But that's the kind of stories I get to hear all the time, where people say, "Hey, your program worked on, this, the real estate test, or the civil service test." This one guy came up to me. I was in Arizona speaking, and he said, "I need to tell you something." I said, "Okay." He said, "My daughter has your program, my self-paced program, the one that you do online." And he said, I sat every day with her as she's doing the program and just listening and learning. And he said, my company gave every employee what's known as the professional performance security test, which I still don't know what that is.
Okay.
And he said, the entire company failed but him.
What?
I was like, wow. So, that's the kind of cool stories I get to hear.
Yeah.
This is why test taking should be in every school. Test taking skills should be, and if you homeschool your kids, everybody should be doing this because it's going to help them. I'll get nurses or doctors or engineers who will say to me, we get tested every 6 months for certifications, but it's not about our degree. It's all about our thinking skills and how well we can answer questions under pressure in a short amount of time. It goes way beyond college.
It really does. And I mean, we get tested every day anyway. It's kind of part of being a human being. But yeah, Grant, as sort of mirrors what you're saying, a lot of exams are mostly technique, and it certainly appears that way. SS Fitzgerald recalls taking the HCISPP. Don't know what that is. If you want to share that, I'm not sure what it is. Saying it was the hardest test that he ever took. Nothing in college or the military compared.
Yep. Yeah, it is crazy because they have to know whether can you compete with everybody else on the same level logically. Because, as I said, you can't go by grade point average. Now, it's not that you should have a bad GPA. That's not what I'm saying at all. But colleges can't use that fairly because it depending on the school you go to, it could, you could be breezing through high school and barely cracking a book and get a perfect GPA. It doesn't mean you know anything or that you learn anything. And so they have to have a fair way. And so, we went through a period of time, post-COVID that the SATs and ACTs were canceled, and there was a lot of schools that were test optional. And what it did was they ended up finding out that it was terrible because, number one, the diversity gain only was 1%. They found that those students, weren't doing well in school. The ones who just got let in because they were test optional, but also the fact that it was really there only to benefit the college.
Yeah.
Because when you say we are a test optional school, then your applications increase. And when you increase applications, you get to reject more students.
Yeah.
And when you reject more students, you seem like you're more selective or a better brand. And so it was only benefiting them. And for the students, it gave them a false sense of hope. They only let a small percentage of students in that are test optional. And even if you got in, it doesn't mean you would get any scholarship money at all. But the main thing about it is that when students understand that you have a 250% chance of getting in and getting money over someone who does not turn in a test. So,
yeah, when I was looking at master's programs, it was incredibly confusing, and some of them required you to have the GRE tests. I think you can do like subject specific ones. I can't really remember now because I decided it wasn't something that I was able to do. And then some of them didn't require that. And then I was trying to translate my degree because I was like a couple of % off of like the highest grade that you could get for my degree. But the way it translated was weird. And the structure of master's programs compared to England were weird. And the whole thing was just so off-putting. It's just so confusing. I don't know if I'll ever get into it. Maybe if I don't have to worry about the scholarship money, maybe I need to take a course.
Yeah, and I think if families and students understand that not only do you not have to pay for college, people are going to pay, sadly, but that you don't have to pay. There's so many ways to go for free. And but also you don't have to pay for. There's so many ways to go to grad school or law school, med school for free. So it's all out there. I just think people just don't know it. And I fortunately been able to learn this in 20 years. Not only getting free college, with what happened to us and our family, but beyond that, I began to learn all the steps of getting into college and all the things you should be doing. Things that even things going back as early as 7th grade, things that students could be doing that will set them up for success. So I do a lot of webinars, I do a lot of seminars, I speak at a lot of conferences, and I walk families through, okay, if your child is in this grade, here's what you should be doing, or if you're in this grade. And I think that's important. And you're not going to get that from school. I think one of the false things that's unfortunate for families is that they believe that they're, in most schools, not all schools, in most schools, they believe that their guidance counselor is going to help their child get into college. Unfortunately, most guidance counselors are overwhelmed. They have too much on their plate. And in many cases, it's not their job to get your child into college. It's to get them out of high school. And
Okay.
so what you see is very unprepared students when they leave, when they leave high school, they don't know what to do. And this is why a lot of these college planning companies cropped up a few years ago. I mean, I've seen them between $5, 10, $15,000 because families have a gap of, okay, the guidance counselor is not really helping me, but I got to get into college, so I'm going to have to hire one of these companies to help me. And and they pay a lot of money, and a lot of them, and I've worked for a lot of them with my program. I've done their test prep for them. They don't necessarily do a lot. They maybe handhold your student to fill out the FAFSA and write an essay and that sort of stuff, but it's definitely not worth the price that people are paying. And even then, it's not even necessarily getting them a scholarship. They may help them get in, but not necessarily help them get any money to pay for it.
I mean, I might be speaking out of turn, but it sounds a little bit predatory. Taking people's desperation and being like, I'm going to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're going to, because there's a need there and people are going to jump on it. And the information I've learned, I share for free.
Yeah.
Okay, like let me tell you what you should be doing and not doing. And I've got just a long list of ways that your kids can go to college for free. You do not have to get strapped in debt. There's no college worth it. The dream college is the one that you don't have to pay for.
Right.
So,
it's the same piece of paper at the end of the day.
And you know what? Nobody ever looks at whatever college you go to. Nobody ever looks at your diploma after your first job. And so, if you have that flexibility, a good grades, good test scores, and flexibility, you can get some really crazy scholarship money. And I also show families how it doesn't matter your income. If you're low income, I show you how to get free college. If you're middle, where most people fall middle income or middle to high income or high income, I show you how to go for free. It doesn't matter. Those circumstances are there.
Yeah.
So whatever cards you're dealt with, I can show you how to go for free.
That's really cool. So in terms of the books that come along with your courses, did they come a little bit later after you started doing these sort of teaching kids in your house? Like when did the actual writing part of things come along for you?
That's such a good question. Yes. So after I started teaching on my class, what I would do in the very, very beginning is in my home. I mean, I started out with 3 kids in my home, and those are people I knew. And I would come in and I would teach strategies I had like a little flip chart. This predates PowerPoint. So I had a flip chart that I would flip over, and I would, and the kids would all buy a book, the College Board real SAT book, had 10 SATs in it, and they would come and I would walk them through the strategies, and then they would work the problems in their book. And so, yes, I realized, wait a minute, I need a guidebook, and I need my own questions. And so that's when I wrote the very first textbook and workbook to go with the class. And what's interesting is the SAT has changed 3 times since I have started my class. When I first started back in 2001 with my son, 9th grade. But since then, it's changed 3 times. So I've had to revamp everything.
Wow. So there have been 3 editions?
Yes, 3 different versions of the SAT. And the latest one, which happened last year in March of 2024, it's when it went digital. So the SAT is now digital. The ACT just changed as of the final version came out in September of this year. They have a digital and a paper version. CLT, which is sort of the new kid on the block, the classic learning test. We are basically their official test prep because they gave me an actual CLT test and I created a program from it. And a lot of colleges are starting to go toward. It's not. SAT and ACT are accepted in every college. The CLT, it's in about 300 plus colleges right now, but it's growing. But we created a program for it as well.
Wow, that's really cool. That's really cool. So when it comes to, because I've never created a textbook before, or I've created learning courses because I used to be a trainer, but mine were all like PowerPoint and just little documents here and there. How do you go about like confidently creating a textbook of things that people have to learn and knowing that you've got everything in there? Like, there's got to be loads of like layout stuff. You must have had to learn so much.
I did, and because because I'd never done a book before,
Hmm.
I had to break it down in basically introduction of the test,
Mhm.
and then each section was like reading, and then it was like writing, and then it was the math, and then in it you had to come up with examples. So when you're sharing like okay, here's a strategy for this, you have to give an example, like example one
Mhm.
matches up with this strategy, so that they have a visual to look at.
Mhm.
Um, and so yeah, it was. I'd never done it before. You just did it. It's like okay. And I'm sure my very first copy, my very first book, was lacking a lot of stuff. And you just learn along the way. When you
Mhm.
revise stuff, you just add stuff in.
Mhm.
I also have a book that is called High School Prep Genius,
Mhm.
which is basically like a personal guidance counselor, and it is broken down into what you should be doing in ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th, 12th, every month of every year, so you don't miss a date. And it goes into more than just your academics, but it goes into personal. How do you be successful in high school
Mhm.
and beyond that, as you prepare for college? And my daughter, had a big input on that book. She's a lifetime 4.0 in high school, college, and grad school,
Mhm.
and so she has a huge input put on her information that she learned along the way. So
Mm.
that book is it actually won the Blue Ribbon Award for the best resource. So we have that
That's
claim to fame there.
that's very cool. I mean, one of the questions that I like to ask people is like, how do you go about marketing this thing? But yours is such a unique situation that it comes along with a need that people have already. So I guess in terms of the books, because they go along with your courses, they kind of sell themselves. Um, when it comes to like the publishing side of stuff, did you set up a publishing house? Are they published underneath your company? Obviously, I only share what you're comfortable sharing, but it's always fascinating to me because I don't get to talk to a lot of non-fiction writers.
Right. Well, no, actually, so having not done knowing anything and had to research back when I first read the book, I looked at publishing companies and it was like they wanted 90% of your money. It was like they would give you 10% of your own information.
Hmm.
And some people that I knew had gone to publishing companies and they said they would never do it again.
Hmm.
They said, "Listen, we forever they own my rights forever, even if we revise it." And they said they would. They said, "Well, and we only they." I think they may have printed maybe 5,000 books,
Mm.
and they also gave them about 10% of their own money. And I thought, well,
Mm.
that doesn't sound right. And so I thought I was just ignorant, and I thought, well, maybe I can do it myself. And so then I started looking into, okay, so first you get the manuscript, and then you got to get a barcode, and then you got to get an ISBN number, and
Mhm.
then you have to send it to the Library of Congress, and all these things. So I did all that, and we created a publishing company, Maven
Mhm.
and Family Publishing, and and then we went to the printer and had the books printed. So it seems very simple, but it worked, and
Yeah.
and you're right about selling itself. How do we market it?
Mm.
I'm a speaker, so I started getting invited to speak places.
Mm.
And when I would speak, people wanted to buy the book. Uh,
Mm.
so, and also some of our books, we also have a book series called Vocab Cafe, which I should send you. I need to get your address and send you this stuff so you have it.
Yeah,
But
please do.
so these are written by my kids. I know we're talking about me today, but they're a fun way to learn vocabulary.
Mm.
Like a lot of times, when your kids are reading a great book like um, uh, Shelley's Frankenstein, and all of a sudden there's this big word like lugubrious or pulchritude. What do kids do?
Yeah.
They either you think they stop and look that word up, but no. What they
Mhm.
do is they skip over it usually, and so
Mhm.
I think a lot of our books in schools today have totally been dumbed down.
Mm.
Instead of teaching those words, they dumb them down and
Mm.
remove them. And so what my kids did, when we learned they learned thousands and thousands of words, and
Mhm.
we took those words and we put them in a book series.
Mm.
So when you're reading the book, and they're just fun fiction books, that's why
Oh, cool.
I
Okay.
think you would really enjoy them. And they're called the Vocab Cafe series.
Mhm.
And so when you're reading and you come across a word like gourmand,
Mhm.
it's in the context of the sentence, and the definition and pronunciation is at the bottom of the page.
Oh, that's cool.
So you automatically know what that word means. So you can say, when talking about a gourmand, someone who's a really good cook, then you understand what you just read.
That is fantastic. Please send me the link to everything that you can, and I will put it in the description of this video, because anyone that's watching the recording, then we can make sure that they can get access to that. That's fantastic. And I used to love to read as a kid, and I would read quite high above my sort of reading grade that you were allotted at school, because it was like, Ben has a ball, he kicks the ball, and it's like, okay, but I want to learn about wizards.
Give me more.
Yeah, I think some more needs to be done to encourage children to enjoy reading, and some kids don't, and that's totally fine. Like, it's, some kids might have dyslexia, so they might have different needs and things like that, but they should be given the opportunity to read. Yeah, that's something that I wanted to ask, actually. You might not know, and that's totally fine, but having these standardized tests, because so in England, I'm going to back up a little bit. If you have a learning need, usually you'll have like reasonable adjustments. So that means, like, if you have dyslexia, or if you have various other ears, you get like extra time, or you'll be given the test on yellow paper, or whatever it is. Do they do things like that for testing?
Absolutely. Okay. So all the testing companies, SAT, ACT, and CLT, they have what's called accommodations. And so if a student has an accommodation, whether it's dyslexia, dysgraphia, autism, whatever the special need may be, then what they do is they hire a separate proctor, and that proctor tests them completely differently in a different room.
Oh, cool.
And they may either give them double time and a half, or maybe no time restraints at all. And then depending on the situation, it could be that the student needs the test given to them orally. It could be they may do it by hand or by computer, depending on the test. So yes. Now, what I always tell families, though, when it comes to accommodations, is it can take months to get that into play. So you always apply early.
Okay.
Don't think like the week before the test you're going to get the accommodations, because that's probably not going to happen. So you always want to make sure that you and all the test companies on their website, they have a site dedicated, or a page dedicated to the steps that you need to get the accommodation. So yes, it's very important. And here's the cool thing too: colleges don't know that you had accommodations. So it's completely anonymous. So if you were given double time, when the college gets your test score, it doesn't say a little asterisk that said, "Well, this child had double." It doesn't say that at all. So nobody ever knows.
Good. It should be like that, because they still got the score, so it doesn't matter. And I mean, we have that in employment here as well. People are given accommodations for them to be able to complete the work, and generally speaking, it's the company's responsibility to do that as well. I'm going to jump off a cliff if I keep going down that rabbit hole, but I did have a question for you.
Yes.
So in your process of writing, you said that you've had a few editions of the workbooks. Do you use an editor, or do you self-edit your work?
Oh, no, I use an editor. Okay. So, and I love editors because they can, like, I often talk like I write. As a Texan, you can imagine. But they take your words and they make them sound good. And so I have an amazing editor. She's actually in Australia.
Oh, cool.
And she's edited a lot of not only my books or ebooks I've written ebooks, I've written articles. I've got tons of articles that have been published. And she just takes it and just makes it sound good. And then she's great about questions about, what did you mean about this? Or she'll pick up on something other that I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that. She goes, well, this doesn't reference anything else. Where does this found? So she's really good about that. And then I have also a book designer. So they're two totally different people that again, these are things that I learned along the way, that an editor, polishes up your words, and page designer makes it look good on the paper.
Oh, fantastic. I don't know many people that use a page designer, but I imagine for the type of book that you're publishing, you have to have it, because textbooks are set out in a totally different way to just like a regular fiction book. That's fascinating. So how did you find your editor? Was she the first one that you went with?
So I'm trying to think. I think the very first page editor, my page designer, who I still have, Um, she, I think I found her, honestly, gosh, it's been so many years. I think it was like on something like Upwork.
Okay.
And then she's the one who recommended my first editor, which was a young lady that did a great job, but she ended up going to school. And then the same lady recommended the one I have now. So yeah, it was all by recommendation. That's probably the best way, because if you go onto some of these kind of programs like Upwork or sites that have people wanting work, there's like a lot of people and they have a lot of stars, and and it's just kind of like, who do I pick? It's like a crapshoot. You might say, well, this person looks really good, they've got a lot of stars. They may not work out for you. So it is good to get referrals. I think word of mouth is how our business has really grown, because we don't necessarily do a lot of marketing. I don't do a lot of social media, which I need to do it, but I don't. But just people have told people who tell people, and schools tell other schools. And so that's pretty much how we, spread our business around. How I got to go to 5 other countries was word of mouth. I taught a class in Michigan one time, or a couple times, and I get a call years later from someone who says, "Hey, would you like to come to China and teach your program?"
What?
She knew that she was from Michigan, and she knew people there, and they told her about me. And once I just found out it was legit, I paid my way, and I ended up teaching in mainland China 4 times, and in Hong Kong 3 times. I've taught in Thailand, India. Let's see here, and I've been to Puerto Rico. So I've taught, and because again, these are kids. A lot of them, whether they're an expat or whether they're in the international schools, or whether they're a native of that country. We in America, we have the 17 of the top 20 colleges, and people all around the world want to come here to go to school. And so, of course, what stands between you and the school is getting your SAT scores to get in and hopefully get scholarship money.
I didn't put 2 and 2 together when you first mentioned that you went to other countries, and I thought, does that mean that you had to learn how to get into other colleges in different countries? And I didn't think about international students. It's so funny, but that's fascinating. It must be. It must have been so exciting to be invited to all these places.
Oh, unbelievable. What a chance of a lifetime, because maybe some of those countries you can't even get into nowadays, with everything going on in the world. And to go to those cultures where, for example, China, a communist country where there's armed guards on every corner, where you're being watched all the time. And I went to, I went to Beijing, I went to Shanghai, I went to Tiananmen Square, and man, they, you don't dare pull your camera out or they'll come and confiscate it. I mean, it's just crazy. Yes. And so you learn, but then, Hong Kong certainly was more relaxed, and it was nothing like China, mainland China. And the shopping is just amazing. Thailand, I mean, going into that world of elephants, riding elephants in the jungle. One of the things I get to do is when I go to these places, I get to do some really cool things. Like when I was in Beijing, I got to climb the Great Wall of China. That's which cool. Was an experience for sure. I rode an elephant in through the jungle in Thailand. In India, I got to just experience our whole culture, which is totally different world over there. So that's I've been blessed to be able to do that and to be able to teach my program to help students come to America to go to college. I've had kids come over here to go to college for free, get free college, free med school. So it's been great.
Creating some fantastic opportunities for people. That's very cool. What an experience. I mean, if anybody has any questions for Jean in the chat, please do pop them in there, because we're almost coming to a close. But I just wanted to say, what a fantastic whirlwind of a life that you've had doing this thing. And it's not very often that I get to talk to, as I said, nonfiction writers, and the fact that you've made such a success out of this thing, you saw a need and you just ran with it. And it sounds like you just really super believe in what you do, and you're so passionate about what you do. And it's so nice to talk to somebody who, not that all my other guests aren't fantastic, but it's so nice to talk to somebody who really, really, really believes in what they're doing. And that sells a lot, in my opinion, if you really believe in what you're doing.
Well, and I think for families, it gives them options. I think a lot of times people think, well, we're not going to be able to go the college route. And not that college is for everybody, because it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you are needing a degree, some kind of field that requires a degree, as in like a nurse or a doctor or a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
engineer, you need the college degree. Certainly you can, there's so many things you can do nowadays without one. But if that's the direction you're going to, then there are so many ways that you can go and not have that debt hanging over your head, which is going to follow you. It's
Yeah.
going to follow you. I mean, a lot of the parents that I teach their students will tell me, we're still paying off our debt.
Wow.
And I hear that all the time. And they're in their adulthood, 20 years out of college, and they're still paying for it. And so, your decision should be the institution and not the finances.
For
And
sure.
so, I think as long as people they understand the knowledge of how to do it, which is what I share when I speak, then it's life changing.
Yeah, and education should be accessible, and what you're doing is making it more accessible for people. So that's incredible in my book, and I think it's fantastic. It doesn't look like we've got any questions in the chat right now, but do you have anything else that you'd like to share with us before we close down the show today?
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and
course.
I love this opportunity, and I thank you for that. And yeah, just know that if you have any questions, you can contact us on my website, call us. If you want to know more about the program, or I'm a speaker too. Like a lot of people have become, not just I speak at conferences, but I speak at schools, and I speak at lots of different venues. And so if you're needing a speaker, let me know, because I can come and share with you, how to set the next generation, where they're set up for success. I heard a statistic one time that said 75% of all crime is committed by someone who drops out of high school. And I thought, if we could get our kids, give them some clear direction, and get them on a path. Let's say they have aspirations of becoming someone, and that they can actually not only finish high school, but even go into college and get it paid for. They can drop crime 75%. That is a huge statistic that could be done. And so I would love to be a part of that, to help those kids.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time today, and it's been fascinating to learn about what you do with College Prep Genius and what you do as a writer, and it's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone that listened today and anyone that's watching the recording.
Thank you.
All right, I'll see you on the other side.